Hi, you're watching CHISTELL.com, the Chistel.com channel here at YouTube. And I am author Denise Turney, and I'm the author of the book Love Pour Over Me. I'm going to read you some snippets from Love Pour Over Me, which is an ebook and print copy. You can get it anywhere: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, ebookit.com, Chistel.com, where you don't ever pay shipping and handling. But I want to read you some snippets, and hopefully soon I'll be telling you that my new book, Gada, G-A-D-A, Gada's a woman's name, Gada's Glory, set in Chicago in the 1940s, is on the market. But Love Pour Over Me, and it is the story of Raymond Clarke. It starts in Dayton, Ohio, and it goes to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Raymond actually ends up going to Africa, then he comes back to the United States. These two are truly meant to be together. But oh my gosh, they get together and something happens. But what's meant to be is meant to be, happens. And I'll leave that there. It's not just a story about Raymond and Brenda. It's a story about Raymond and his father, who has untreated alcoholism, his mother laughing when he was 2, and also a story about the 4 friends Raymond meets in college. One goes on to be a superstar in the NFL. One's from Italy, and the other 2. And there's a murder mystery tucked in Love Pour Over Me as well. I wonder who done it. If you could figure it out before it's revealed, and you got to read almost the whole book before you figure out who done it. The quote at the bottom of Love Pour Over Me is one of my favorites. But the greatest of these is love. And that's from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13. So here's some snippets here from Love Pour Over Me. And I actually was thinking, oh God, doing these snippets last night. So I'm going to read you this from page 13. He spent the night on the living room sofa. ESPN hummed in the background. He looked up at the ceiling and wondered if he should call Coach Carter, this is Raymond, first thing in the morning and tell him that he wasn't going to come to university after all. This is after Raymond has graduated from high school and he's had a very unpleasant interaction with his father, because he had to stay home and take care of his sick father, a middle-aged man who had not started to drink until after his wife left him for a has-been professional football player when Raymond was only 2 years old. Or, he wondered while he stared up at the ceiling, should I just go hundreds of miles away from here? Choices. And I'm flipping through. I have my notes here. Coach Carter smiled, nodded his approval, and said, I love your drive, the way you go after what you want. We just might win it all this year. He paused. In both indoor and outdoor track and field. He looked at Raymond, his star athlete, intently. You're a big part of that, Ray. He paused and wagged his finger. But remember that in between working out, you should take time to rest and have fun. Life's for living. Enjoying yourself is a big part of that. And that's something Raymond needs help with. And here's another one that I wanted to read. And I'm only going to read a little bit of this one. This is about Anthony, one of Raymond's friends, and this is chapter 7. I'm all the way on page 84. I'm just reading snippets from Love Pour Over Me for you. The score was 28-23. Notre Dame was winning. Only 13 seconds remained in the game. UPM had the ball. It was 1st and 18 on Notre Dame's 42-yard line, a long shot. Jim Towsley, UPM sophomore quarterback, stepped behind the line of scrimmage. He scanned the field. He was determined to get someone on UPM into the end zone. He looked to his right and stepped back again. Tim Jones and Mark Patterson, UPM's wide receivers, were covered. Notre Dame's defensive lineman, Philip Waters, glared as he pushed and shoved UPM's offensive line out of the way. Player by player, made his way across the field toward Jim. You're going down, he growled at Jim as he charged so hard across the field his cleats churned up mud. Closer to the goalpost, Anthony forearmed a Notre Dame tackler and sprinted down the field. 2 Notre Dame players, a safety and a defensive back, sprinted after him. They ran so hard Anthony heard their feet land against the muddy turf. This was it. There wasn't There wouldn't be a second chance. If Anthony didn't find a way to score now, nothing else he'd done in his football career would matter. With a final grunt, Anthony stretched his arm and waved his hand. The Notre Dame safety leaped into the air seconds after he did. Jim took one last step back and he hurled the football into Anthony's hands just before Philip Walters soared across the field and landed on top of Jim. While Jim lay on the ground gasping for air, Anthony turned sharply and sprinted toward the end zone. Philip pushed to his feet and shouted a string of obscenities. He raced alongside the rest of Notre Dame's defensive line toward Anthony. A Notre Dame defensive back grabbed the back of Anthony's muddy jersey and brought him toward the ground. Clumps of mud splattered into Anthony's eyes, blinding him. Despite how hard he pulled up with his forearms, he felt himself slipping, moving closer to the earth. Philip ran at Anthony diagonally across the field, his eyes yellow with anger, his heart pounding with determination. Anthony shook the mud away from his eyes, stretched out his forearm, and threw the defensive back off his shoulder. Racing toward the end zone, he didn't notice Philip's foot slide beneath the heel of his right cleat. Anthony stumbled forward. The football popped out of his grasp and sprang into the air. Philip lunged against his right shoulder, then reached for the football. The crowd was on his feet, cheering wildly. The ball spun in the air. Then Anthony fell hard on the ground. The ball was snug in his hands. Philip fell on Anthony and tried to snatch the ball out of his hands, but two referees blew long on their whistles, sending a piercing noise through the air. For a second, everything stopped. Then the two head football coaches ran down the sidelines and started screaming obscenities. "It's our ball!" Notre Dame's head coach Jimmy Woodson screamed until the veins at the sides of his forehead flattened and pulsed. "No, bless it all!" UPM head coach Mark Flint hollered. "We scored!" He pointed at Anthony, who lay gasping for breath on the ground. "He's in!" He chimed as he shook his pointing finger. "He's in!" Calls up to the booth, followed by two huddled on-field referee conferences, preceded the field judges walking to the edge of the end zone. A hush reigned over the crowd. The field judge raised both of his hands, signaling the touchdown, and UPM football players, coaches, and fans erupted into loud celebration. Raymond, Patrick, Doug, and the entire UPM stadium waved his hands wildly through the air. Students pulled their hats and caps off and tossed them up like champagne corks, aiming for the sky. Confetti sprinkled down on the top of the stadium like colored rain. Firecrackers zoomed and banged. Cheerleaders and diehard fans raced to the center of the field. Anthony's parents and extended family cheered and shouted from the skybox. UPM players hosted Anthony atop their shoulders and carried him, their fists pumping and saluting the sky with victory. And that was review pages, bottom of 84 through 86. And then I'm just going to read you the very end of 116 through 117. As Walter peered over his shoulder at him, Raymond's coming back into his college dorm here. This is totally pages away from what I just read about the football game. As Walter peered over his shoulder at him, Raymond squeezed his lips together, keeping himself from asking Walter who the guy was he saw him talking with the night of the shootout. Ever since that night 3 weeks ago, he'd wanted to ask Walter about the guy, but he kept stopping himself. Walter scowled. "You sizing me up?" "Nah," Raymond shrugged. "You just seem different. Not like your normal talkative self." Walter placed the magazine on the desk and raised his voice. "I ain't got to talk to you and nobody else. Don't go worrying about whether I talk or not." He stood and walked within inches of Raymond's nose. "If anybody's got to watch what they say and who they say it to, it's you and your boy Anthony." "Yo, man, what you talking about?" A second later, Raymond rolled his eyes and released a thick breath. "You've been all up in my business since I got here last summer." "Last summer?" Walter asked with arched eyebrows. "Are you talking about that time I told you I heard you were supposed to be at Ohio State?" He shrugged. "So what?" "Tell you what, Walter," Raymond advised. "You mind your business." Walter met his glare and he added, "Stay out of mine." "Hey, man," Walter chuckled, suddenly changing his attitude. He extended a hand toward Raymond. "Ain't no beef between you and me." He nodded. "What do you say we keep it that way?" After he pulled his sports bag over his shoulder, Raymond shook Walter's hand. "Cool," he said. Then he walked heel to toe back to the elevators. As the elevator doors closed in front of him, he made a note to talk with Anthony. The look in Walter's eyes when he mentioned how he needed to watch who he talked to made him feel uneasy. Sent a chill up his spine. And that is pages 116 to 117 from Love Pour Over Me by me, Denise Turney. And it's a murder mystery in there. It's a love story. And more importantly, you're going to see how we all, even in our real lives, influence and impact each other. And hopefully for the best, but not always. Hopefully for the best, but not always. So I encourage you to get a copy of Love Pour Over Me by Denise Turney. Ebook it, Barnes& & Noble, Amazon.com, ebook form, print form, or Chistel, CHISTELL.com. That's probably the only place you're going to get it where you don't pay shipping and handling, where you get a print copy. I thank you for being here with us at CHISTELL.com. Please hit that subscribe button so you can keep in touch with our writers' tips, writers' events, contests, and I mean events we learn about all over the world, marketing tips, and more, all free here. And I hope you'll listen to Off the Shelf Book Talk Radio, which I have hosted for more than 12 years. Thank you for being here with us. See you next week. Remember, you're amazing. Bye for now.